Welcome, everybody, to this week's show of all the places that I've been. I am so glad to have my best friend, Catherine Gaston, here with me. And for today's show, she was like, Joe, what do I prepare? And I was thinking, you don't, because in terms of all the places you've been, as well as now the places you're going to go, I am just so excited for you to share with the audience how it is that you got to this point, and the reality of at any age, there's always fear involved with starting something new. So let's talk a little bit about all the places you've been, because even together we've been a lot of places. But the fact that here you are at this stage in your life.
I thought you were going to say at this age.
Nope, stage. I'm good. In this season of your life, you're about to embark on a training to become a flight attendant with United Airlines. And I admire you so much for so many different reasons. But this one specifically, you've done so much to support your husband, to support your brother-in-law, to support your children, to support the kids you've coached in volleyball and the kids that you've taught in ILC. And now here you are finally, and it's your time. And I know there's fear involved, but there's nothing but success and good things that lie ahead.
I just got to get through the training.
I know.
That's my biggest.
I know. But again, the hardest part is always just getting started. And I remember when you first were applying for this position, and then going through the arduous process and being vetted and flying to Houston to interview and all of that. But anyway, I do want to turn it over to you and just tell the audience the lessons you've learned along the way up till now and the reality of what it's like to start over at any stage.
Well, I don't know. I think I've started over several times because I've worked, in the corporate world. I worked at Toyota Finance for about 8 years. Then I was raising 3 daughters. My priority was to be at home with them, definitely before and after school, being home with them. So I did different jobs, whether I worked from home for other companies, I watched, friends' kids, anything to make an income. And then eventually I started my photography business, and that has done very well.
Let me plug that real quick. kgphotography.biz. Catherine has captured more life moments with my pets, with my children, with my whole family. So even though now it's still a side gig for you, please do look her up and take a look at her amazing work. But I'm sorry.
That's okay. So I'm actually looking forward to taking a step back from photography. I had my last shoot this week, got that edited, and because I'm headed out of town to Texas for 6.5 weeks of training. So I did my photography business, and then kids are all in school. I worked at another part-time job. So I've always been doing other things. And then in 2014, 15, I got my substitute teaching license and was subbing for several years. I could do that with photography on the side. And I fell in love with working in the ILC classes, which is for kids with special needs. And that was something dear to my heart because I had a younger sister with special needs. And I just decided I wanted to have a full-time job at, I got a job at Grandview High School doing, working in ILC. And I think it was about a month before I started there, my dad passed away. And what I learned, especially during that time, it was so hard on me because I was still doing photography. I got behind because of
caring for him.
Because of my dad being in the hospital and everything. But I would show up to school, and that's I think the biggest thing when you're so incredibly stressed, just show up. Like that's what got me through that difficult time. And I would look at these kids who they changed my life for the better because I would just look at them and they would say funny things and they're just sitting there smiling, not,
So happy.
and I would just look and go, they're amazing. And I mean, there's several kids that I worked with that really changed me. And you just put, like, I always would put my kids and the family first. Then, you put these kids first. Like, you think your life is bad. These kids, at first I would think, oh my gosh, these poor families. But these kids are such a flippin' blessing, to everyone that they touch. And
you were to them and to their families who oftentimes need that respite. They need that relief. They need that break. And to be able to drop their special needs children off with somebody like you say that, so that, some of the kids have touched your life, or you've touched every single one of theirs.
Yeah, and I can see that, but I think I benefited more from them.
TBD.
Yeah, but I mean, they definitely. So that's a hard thing, leaving the kids. I still have a great relationship with a lot of the families, so I do get to see, a lot of the kids. And I did renew my sub license, so if I'm back in town, let's say I have 3 days off, I'll go in and sub a day because they are so short staffed. Anyone wants a job, apply to become a para because they are definitely understaffed.
Teaching is taking a hit in general.
But absolutely.
But those special needs areas.
And it comes down to the safety of those kids. So that was hard to leave, but
now
I look forward to this next adventure and being able to apply everything I've learned all these years to my new job. And I know a lot of my experience in life and working with the ILC community has helped me to get this job.
Yeah. And again, if there's a common thread through any of this, it's your service to others. It's your ability to feel just for being there.
Yeah.
And I think you're just going to excel in this.
I hope
position.
so. I just got to get through training.
I know.
It's going to be intense.
Well, now let's talk about that too, because when you were looking for your next opportunity, you did interview with some special needs organizations. And everything for a reason.
Everything for a reason. So that's my biggest takeaway. Everything does happen for a reason. Even if you don't know the answer, somewhere down the line, you will figure it out. And I've raised our 3 girls. They know everything does happen for a reason. Like Kelly, our youngest, who plays volleyball
at Lock Haven
University in Pennsylvania, Division II school. She had some horrible coaches in the past, and a couple coaches that have been blessings to her. And she even at one point was like, I don't even know why I still play, because of all these roadblocks that coaches would put up, and
in the politics,
favoritism, awful. And I'm like, because you're not done. There's something in you. And it was just a couple of weeks ago, she and I were talking, and I'm like, this is your reason. Absolutely. Her team, she's a sophomore, setter, team captain, and
she was captain as a freshman, wasn't she?
No,
but still as a sophomore.
Yeah, as a sophomore. She's one of the team captains. She puts her whole heart into it, but her teammates thought she was this all-star high school player, and I think they end up looking at her like, wow, you're almost like more down to earth. And one thing Kelly said is every time she steps on the court, she always steps with confidence.
Yes.
Like, everyone's going to make mistakes, but anyway,
Has she shared with her teammates the tough journey she took to get awesome?
she did a little bit last year, kind of towards the end of the season. And then she was just they had an away tournament last weekend, and she was talking to her roommate, and she told her struggles and how she's always had to fight for her position and to prove herself. And there are some coaches who, it doesn't matter how hard you work, never give you the chance.
Exactly.
And
you'll never be good enough.
Remain nameless, but in all honesty, the coaches that have been the blessing to her, Coach Miller, her club coach, Michael Robles from Rocky, that saw something in her and believed in her, Coach Miller, even just this summer doing private lessons with Coach James Johnson, how he's in it for the girls. There's too many coaches out there who are in it for their own ego.
Right.
And that's not what it's about.
And their own income, frankly.
Absolutely.
We've seen
you follow the money.
Yeah.
And then Coach Bugs, where she's at now. Like, she landed where she was meant to land. It stinks that she's in Pennsylvania, so far away.
With your travel now.
We'll be able to go see her more often.
Absolutely.
And
you and I, we actually met coaching volleyball here with the Aurora Park District.
Yeah.
And
Tamia introduced us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'll always be grateful for honestly meeting you,
Yeah.
however it would be.
Even on opposite ends of the courts.
We were so competitive. You would give me the stink eye, and I was like, let the girls do the talking on the court. But
I'm so competitive.
Oh, I know, I am too. Oh,
Yeah.
but gosh, but we still managed to forge an amazing friendship.
And then it got stronger when Meg, her freshman year, transferred to, was it her freshman or sophomore year?
It was her freshman, second semester. Yeah. She transferred from Regis High School to Grandview.
Yeah. And then I remember one time you picking the girls up from a football game or something and taking them out to get food. And she's like, oh my God, Miss Jo is so fun. She's so funny and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, sure, as long as it's not a structured program. But whenever I would chaperone things and I'd do my thing and be who I am and take the girls out on little tangent trips, I'd always get reprimanded. I got reprimanded more as a parent and a chaperone than I ever did in any other function I've ever been in. But that was all fun. And I think what we realized too, and then going to Grandview and that program, 5A state champions.
Many times.
Yeah, very, very competitive and trying to help the girls find their identity on those teams in that environment. And the one thing I know we both agreed on and kind of calibrated our kids and any kids we could influence with is, what's the likelihood of you being a professional volleyball player?
Exactly.
Like
it's such a small portion of your life. In the grand scheme of life. Right now, it's a huge portion of Kelly's life.
And it can be consuming in any sport.
Absolutely.
Where kids can easily lose perspective with parental pressures, want more for them than they might want for themselves.
Yeah.
But the one thing I remember this is, be the best player you can be, but never compromise the amazing person that you are and all the contributions you have to make to this world.
Yeah.
Irrespective of volleyball.
Yeah. Well, when I started going back to coaching club volleyball, that's competitive. We were coaching, I think my first year, 13-year-old girls. So they were 12, 13. Then the second year, it was, they were 11, 12-year-olds. I always said to the parents, your kids' skills will come because they're beginning kind of at that point.
They're awkward and you have hormones.
Oh, yeah,
and
absolutely.
everything else.
Their skills, they'll get better. My goal as a coach was always to make them better players, or better teammates, the best teammates possible, because the hardest thing to do is to be sitting on the bench cheering on your team and you're not a part of it. But if you could learn to be a supportive teammate regardless, that is huge. Because I would tell them, I go, if I see someone out there struggling, I don't care if it's our middle and I have a 4 foot nothing girl on the bench. If she's the only one cheering and everyone else has their arms crossed and attitude, I'm putting in that little short girl, because you know what? She's engaged and she's supportive and she's probably going to go out there and do what she needs to do, you know? But they got to learn it at a young age, because girls end up getting bitchy and catty with each other as they get older. And that's not,
It's not.
that's
what's
a
gonna get
horrible
us all
trait in
ahead.
life.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Well, life is a team sport. And,
Yes.
and that's something that I think everybody needs to embrace. And I remember with my own girls, Rachel and Megan, in that sport, helping them redefine the victory. You know, did you bring your best game? Did you keep a positive attitude? Did you support the others even if you were on the bench? All of that makes you a great winner. Like you are a
In
winner.
life. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no doubt. And but it's hard. It's hard to keep kids engaged like that and to help them calibrate.
You know what you just reminded me of?
Yeah.
Do you remember what Rachel would do before she would serve every ball?
You're testing my memory now.
We crack up. She'd rub her hands
Oh,
on her
her
bum
butt.
cheeks. She would rub her hands and probably like to get the sweat off.
Yeah.
And then she would serve it. She's like, it's good luck.
It's good luck to rub my bum. And boy,
Yeah.
she had a beautiful little bum.
She did.
And she still does.
That's so
But
funny.
yeah, watching those girls, and I remember Megan and Rachel both coming to me because, you know, club volleyball, it is not cheap.
No, it's so
And
expensive.
It is. It
Yeah.
is. And you coach to help afford it.
Yeah.
And I swept up, you know, sweat.
And I've done that as well to offset the cost.
Absolutely. But I do remember Megan and Rachel feeling bad at certain points, like, Mom, but I don't think I want to play in college. I don't think I want to take it beyond this. And I thought, who cares?
Yeah.
Who cares? Go out, learn to be that great teammate, learn how to manage bad coaches and benefit from good coaches.
Yeah.
Because all of that will translate someday in your life.
Yeah.
And all the experiences, traveling, just being who they were on the road without their mom and dad having to
see. And
influence
it's funny
them.
because I have the different perspective that when Morgan quit volleyball going into her junior year, there was no point of paying for club. I'm like, you could do rec, but we're not paying for a club when you're going down another path.
Right.
So, you know, and at one point she really wanted us to, and, you know, she was our oldest. So we had a lot of expenses.
Oh gosh.
And I couldn't see spending that amount of money if you're not going to play in college. But it's sad because there's not a lot of competitive rec leagues.
There isn't.
And, you know, and she was beyond that. But, you know, probably would have been good to get her in a doubles league or like the sand league at the island. You know, she probably would have enjoyed that. But
look how she turned out.
Oh,
Talk
gosh.
about this, because this is, I'm so proud of
and you're
Morgan.
gonna have Morgan on at some point.
Absolutely. I hope so, because she's an amazing young woman. And you've raised just 3 amazing young women.
It was hard work.
I know.
So hard work. 3 girls.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But so with Morgan, she graduates high school and everybody
Well,
is going on to college and they know what they want to be and they know what they're going to do and
and
how
Morgan
much they're
thought
going to
she
make.
knew what she wanted to be because she quit volleyball to pursue singing. She's got a beautiful voice, and to be able to participate in the school musicals because they were always in the fall, and that was volleyball season. So that's why she quit volleyball. And she was either going to go to CSU or Mesa, and auditioned for both, accepted into both schools, classical music. Oh no, then I see Newmar.
I know you keep moving. I'm like, get in here.
Sorry. It's just weird how we're opposite because
Yeah.
I speak of the devil, Kelly's calling me.
We answered it.
No. And we were driving back in a snowstorm from Grand Junction from that audition. And she says, I don't think this is what I want to do. And I'm like, what? And she's like, my husband's from England and our girls can carry dual citizenship. And she's like, we always talked about taking a year off, that gap year, and going to England and really getting to know that side of her family, experience that culture. We're like, okay. So we set everything, started setting everything up. She had to save a lot of money for school or for her travels. And it wasn't like we were paying for her to do this. And so she moved over there, stayed with family part-time, and she worked in a pub, worked for a pub chain, and the stories she had there were amazing and hilarious.
Can't wait to hear them.
Yeah, she'll have some good stories. She met some great friends, and then she moved to, is it Wimbledon? Because she was outside of London, and or Windsor. No, I think it was Wimbledon, is that she moved to another pub chain there, and lived upstairs from the pub. And it was during that time she met Toby. Toby's from Australia, and I don't want to go into too many details because she could explain. But
just visiting. Or?
He was working. He was on a work visa, and she met. So I met my husband. He was one of my tour guides.
I was going to go back to that. So, Kath, how did you meet Jeff, and how did you be so open to what Morgan wanted to do with regards to the travel?
Because that was like one of the best times of my life.
How old were you when you went?
24.
And you just by yourself?
Just by myself. I was gonna go with a couple of girlfriends, and they didn't want to do it. And so I'm like, I still want to do it. Like I looked all through college going, I want to see everything I've been studying all these years in person. And
was it Europe in general or England specifically?
No, Europe. And then I went to AAA to look at their travel. Like I figured I can't go and just get a URL pass on my own. I wasn't that adventurous. And that's what we were originally going to do. And I thought, well, if I go on a tour, and then maybe originally I thought, oh, I'll get a nanny job in Madrid so I could learn Spanish and, possibly, teach some English. That was my intention. So when I was at AAA, they showed me a brochure, and it was for Kentucky tours for 18 to 35-year-olds. And I'm like, that's perfect, because I didn't want to be on tour with a bunch of old retired people that we're now getting to that point. And so I signed up for a tour, and my husband was one of the tour guides. And then the funny thing is it's so crazy that the other tour guide, Paul, started dating a passenger on the tour, Julie, And Julie and I became fast friends early on with another friend, Diane. And so Julie would say on her free days, come with me because I don't want to be obvious I'm with Paul. And I'm like, oh, well, where Paul is, Jeff is. That's my husband now. And so we became friends. We were friends for about, during the tour. And after the tour, he flew to the United States, did a Kentucky tour of the Gold Rush, stayed with my parents for a couple nights. Even before we started dating, they had no idea that I kind of liked him. And then we started dating, and by this time I'm working as a nanny in London. And then by this time he came back and to continue working. And
so the kids grew up with this story and this taste of international adventure. And so Morgan goes ahead and gets bit by the bug.
She does. And then Morgan had a friend from high school who was doing a couple months over there, classes,
travel abroad,
through her university. And they decided to do a Kentucky tour. And Morgan met Toby on the tour. They became friends and then eventually started dating. And
fast forward now.
And so Toby, I think they were dating for like a year and a half over there. He's, what I love about him, he knew Morgan was not happy working in the pub. And he's like, if you're unhappy, let's get your resume up. Let's get, and then helped her. She found a job with an office interior design company in London. And so she was working there.
Which is great because it tapped into her arts.
Yeah. And she's got some stories there. You'll have to ask her about authorizing painting over a wall in an office building that it was a mural.
Like how much?
They ended up flying the artist back to redo it, but they didn't specify like don't paint that wall like the whatever
Michelangelo's.
Exactly. And so then at some point Toby went back to Australia to renew his work visa and was denied. And then so they ended up moving everything to Australia, to Melbourne, and she loves it. And they've been there.
What is she doing now?
And her first job, she landed there. This is where everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
So her company she was at in London sent her to, I don't know, a week or 2 week long training for this, I think it was like project management type course. It was very expensive. And she's like, but what if Toby doesn't get his visa renewed? Then she would have to pay the company back. And I'm like, it's not going to hurt you. If anything, it could help you. When she started looking for work, it was because she had that certification. And she got the job with Tennis Australia. Amazing. She puts on the Australian Open. Oh, I do start.
You do start creeping away from me.
And
Australia Open,
and she absolutely loves it. She's doing great and moving up the ranks. They're building their first home. They'll be done in a few months, and she plays Australian rules footy, and
that's like
it's like
rugby a little.
It's like rugby a lot. A little bit of soccer, I guess a little bit of American football is how they describe it to me. Unfortunately, we can't see them, but they just had their finals and they lost in the finals. So they got second, but she absolutely loves it. She'll be covered in bruises and but
he's happy.
Yeah. And she's happy with Toby and their dog named Denver.
Oh,
yeah. He's a sweetie.
So, that's awesome.
So that also is why I was looking at getting a job with an airline. So at some point we can see them more often, because we haven't been over there yet. And of course, COVID
Right.
didn't help anything.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to see Kelly more and just see more of the United States. And
But talk about full circle when you think about how
everything happens for a reason.
absolutely, how you met Jeff, how you did all that because you wanted to travel and see the world and see the places you were studying. Fast forward many years, and here you are. You're going to be doing that exact same thing at this stage in your life.
Yeah.
In a different way,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
just as exciting, if not more exciting.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk real quick about even in this stage of life. So you've got the empty nest, and you're going to go and take on this challenge. And you've got Jeff supporting you, and Dave, your brother-in-law. What is it that you think you're most, I don't want to say afraid of, but you know, what are your reservations about this if you have them? And it's okay to have them because we have them all the time.
My reservations are, you know, failing through the training, because it's intense. I hear, you know, it starts off like 6 days a week, plan on little sleep.
And you've never done that before, have you, Kat?
No, I know.
No, I know.
Up all night with kids, and but it's just, you know, and I need to start being more positive. I got this. I can do it. I know I can do it.
Oh yeah.
But that's fear of disappointing, you know, my family. But
the fact you're doing it, I think everybody is so.
Well, and it's so funny. Just, you know, we have relatives in town from Canada right now. Just got in yesterday, and as they are, and they're amazing. And just as I was getting ready to leave, they're like, "That's so brave of you," and I was like, "That's what people keep saying." I go, you know, at this stage of my life, totally doing something completely different. They're like, "That's so brave," and I'm like,
it's so normal for you though to keep
like
moving forward.
Yeah, right? Like I'm looking forward. I want my husband to retire in a couple years. He thinks a couple months, but no. He's a little bit older than me, so he deserves to retire and do what he wants. He supported our family all these years with income and benefits and stability. So now it's his time to,
So even though you'll be working, this is going to offer you opportunities to travel and enjoy his retirement.
I feel like I'm going back to my excitement of travel before we had kids. Because I used to love flying. Loved it. I thought, you know, even turbulence and takeoff, landing. And then I had kids. And I hated traveling unless we were all together.
You and I talked about
that.
Yeah.
It's a morbid thought that
true.
If something happened to me or me and the girls, what would happen, or if he was traveling, and now when I flew out to Houston for my interview, I was like, we're good. Our girls are adults, you know, and I looked forward to the traveling. Absolutely. You know,
isn't that fun to feel that again?
Yeah. And I just feel like as a parent and a mom, you give everything to your kids, which I would never ever change anything like that, but it was a sacrifice, you know, of a full-time
looking back at it, you're like, wow, that was what a trip.
Yeah. And now it's like, okay, stuff for, you know, do things for Jeff and I, and you and I are going to go travel.
Oh yeah,
we're gonna. I just want to get somewhere with the beach,
pina colada,
laying out, a drink in hand, listening to like reggae music and the calypso, you know, those metal drums or whatever. Are they called calypso?
I think so.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I go, that's all I want in a good book, and just, you know, it's our time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the one thing just to to wrap this up is that whenever people feel like they haven't reached a certain point yet, I haven't accomplished this, I don't have this title, I don't have
Yeah.
this much in my bank account. I guess just embrace the journey.
Oh,
Just be open.
Yeah.
It's never too late.
like Jeff and I want to check out different states and cities and go, do we want to retire here in Colorado?
Yeah.
Or do we want to go somewhere else? I just know I really want to be by a large body of water because I grew up in California. Never thought that our girls, like I thought, of course, our girls are going to grow up by the beach because that's what, how my life was. But now I'm like, whether I'm on a coast somewhere or by a large lake, that's where just I love the beach life, the water.
I read an article about the therapeutic benefits of living by the ocean.
Yeah.
And even the sounds.
It's the sound, like whenever I'm at the ocean, it could be overcast and drizzly. You're walking around and you hear the ocean, the salty air is just so peaceful to me.
The sand between your toes. I don't care what the weather is, my shoes come on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we didn't do big fancy vacations with our kids.
Mm-hmm.
We went to California most of the time, and
where you had family and
where we had family and friends. And I remember one time going back for my reunion, and we told the girls that we're not doing the Disneyland route. It's so crazy expensive. I said, we're spending as much time at the beach as possible. And they were, why not Disneyland, blah, blah, blah. And my best friend lived in Dana Point. And so we'd always spend like a week down there. And then we would head north and to my old stomping grounds in Ventura County area and going to Zuma Beach. And our girls just loved it. They're like, come on, can we move back? Why would you ever leave this? Yeah. I'm like, well, it's not like every day we were at the beach and Disneyland.
Right.
That's not reality. It would be traffic and,
expensive,
unaffordable houses at that time. That's why we came to Colorado. Yeah. So, and we have so many, friends and family that moved from California out here.
Yeah, for this
lifestyle. For this lifestyle. Why am I all like,
I don't know. That's okay. The thing is, though, is now you can go really anywhere you want.
Yeah, and that's what we want to check out, different areas, because there's so many beautiful areas of the United States.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or maybe we'll end up in Italy somewhere, the Amalfi Coast, and live there for 6 months. And
absolutely, and take your friends going all with you. But you know what? We're going to have another show. I'm going to have you back on after you successfully complete this training, and you'll have your own set of new lessons,
new stories. Yeah,
and I can't wait for that because I know only good things await. Kath, you're going to crush it, girlfriend.
I leave in 2 days.
I know you.
It's going to be the longest Jeff and I have been apart. Like we've been apart I think 2 weeks at the most. This is gonna, and I know he'll do just fine, and you and Paul will be over there. Yeah. Oh, we didn't even talk about Brenna. I know. Have 3 daughters.
Well, you know what though? No.
Yeah,
let's
you're gonna
talk
have
about Brenna.
Yeah.
I am going to have, because right before we got on, I said, Brenna's definitely. So talk about Brenna, because Brenna's another one of those stories where, out of high school, not really sure what she wants to do, and now she is crushing it out there in the mortgage industry.
Yeah. So real quick, when Morgan moved to Australia, it was 4 years after high school graduation. So all her friends were posting graduation, photos from college on social media, and it was kind of hard on Morgan. And then she landed the job with Tennis Australia. And all her travel and work experiences led her to that point. 0 student loan debt, which is huge. and she is now living in Australia. But all those life lessons of travel and exposure to different cultures, food, people, brought her to that point. School isn't everything, and
Formal
she's-
education. Life
Yeah.
is school.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. And then Brenna went to school, small school in Kansas for one semester, was miserable. She played volleyball, but it wasn't for her, that very, very small town. And then she came back and was
She had the
struggling.
courage to
Yes.
call it, and you
Yeah.
guys supported
We
her.
supported her because she wasn't happy.
Right.
And it was, we wanted to see her happy. And then she did different jobs, and then she got her personal training license and was doing that. And then COVID hit and everything came to a standstill. And she did a year at CSU online, and she was killing it, like straight A's. Like, who knew? But then at the same time, she also decided to get her mortgage license and worked in the mortgage industry. And, and you look at her now, and she's hardworking and successful, and it's not easy with the rates going up, but she still wants to stick it out, and she's figuring out life.
how to do that, how to partner with people. And
she's surprising us because she's like kind of doing the marketing side of marketing herself.
She is.
And getting realtors together, like they would do Talk Golf every Friday, and now she's trying to at the island do volleyball for realtors and doing some fun things.
She's such
for
a
the
strong
business.
woman.
Yeah. And it's just like,
and as a young woman new to that area, she's encountered, and that's why I'm going to have her on soon as well.
Yeah.
She's encountered obstacles that are out there, but normally people don't realize that those are obstacles.
Yeah.
But she's so intuitive, and she's so wise beyond her years.
yeah.
And she's hit so many challenges because she's reached so high quick.
Yeah.
And that can be very threatening
Yeah.
for other people.
Oh, yeah.
So I am going to have her on.
Yeah.
because as a young woman, to have her speak to that
Yeah.
would be very
And
powerful.
that's what she talks about a lot, is why women don't support women.
Yeah.
And, we saw that in the volleyball
you bet.
world, that if,
Yeah.
someone was the same position as your daughter and your daughter was playing, they would give you the evil eye.
Oh, it's
and,
terrible.
And I also learned, though, from, different parents in the volleyball world, that, you encounter mean girls.
Mhm.
Mean girls generally come from mean moms.
Absolutely.
And
And
that's
mean
what,
dads, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
And we just
We've got to
Let's-
change that.
absolutely. And you need to support these young girls, but also call them out when they have that piss poor attitude
Yeah.
and they're listening to mom and dad. Like, why? And we always told our girls, you have an issue with the coach, or you have an issue with your playing time. Don't complain to us.
Mhm.
I would give them advice as a coach, what I would want to hear, but you have to do it.
Mhm.
And so you have to go to, what do I need to work on
Right.
to get that spot? What does she do better than what I do? And what can they work on?
Right.
And Kelly's had to do that so many times. And exactly.
Yeah.
And she has such a good rapport with her coach
And the girls.
and the girls. And she's a good leader.
Yeah.
But she's had to have those difficult conversations, and it's not easy,
No.
but she's learned it very well with life.
Well,
you've
taught it very well.
Yeah,
Yeah, you and Jeff.
and
both.
yeah, absolutely. And also, they say, find your tribe, or it takes a village. Like, having you always support the girls is amazing. And I have so many girlfriends who I've grown up with who will reach out and sometimes I mean, it's so important to hear it from someone else besides Jeff or I or any family.
Absolutely. Well, you know, you're a second
They have-
parent to my son.
Yeah.
Paul, as
Oh,
well.
yeah.
Yeah. So
He's amazing.
he is. I didn't talk
He's
much about him. But
He's the old soul. So
he's my
I could
baby,
tell. So we'd always have big New Year's Eve parties. And Joe and Paul and little man, he's not so little anymore, would come.
Southport, Montana State.
He's a junior.
Oh my God. Oh my God. He is. Oh crap. Now I'm going to cry. All right.
He's a junior. And she would bring him. You guys started coming to
Call him
like,
little man.
yeah. But he was probably in early middle school when you guys started coming. Well, Joe and Paul would leave.
Because we were tired by 9.
Because we were tired. And little man would stay. And I'd be laughing so hard with him. And I felt like he was like a friend that I've had for years. And he'd play the
Inappropriate games.
we introduced him to Cards Against Humanity and a lot of inappropriate, but we'd be laughing so incredibly hard. And he's such a good young man.
But it does
so
take
amazing.
a pride.
Yeah, it does. Yeah,
to raise really good kids. And I'm so
Exactly.
glad that you're a source of that.
I'm so glad to have
Oh
you
my
in my
gosh.
life, and everything happens for a reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with that, we'll wrap it up for this
Awesome.
week. And I
Thank
hope
you.
everybody out there has a wonderful week. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.